Hey guys, it's Matt. If you're driving or just listening, this is the only image you really should see. If you just load this up as an MP3, you don't need to see even this. What you're looking at is just a turd piece of art that this famous David Hockney produced for the London Tube, which is the London Underground or subway system. Basically produced art for the London Tube that looks like a 4-year-old did it, or maybe a 7 or an 8-year-old that has certain problems or special needs, or a glue sniffing 6-year-old. So this famous artist, David Hockney, David, you call him David Hawker, David Hockney, the most influential British artist of the 20th century, produced something that you could just give a crayon and a piece of paper to like your third grade nephew that just got home from school and said, "Here, dude, right here. Here's how they spell Piccadilly. Write something or create something for the London Underground." They would do better. And guys, I'm going to try to use this absurdity to like reverse engineer reality. What does reality want from a human being? What does it want a human being to do to itself? So we've talked about all of this stuff in different ways before, how it is out to destroy absolutely everything. But we've never gone like to this lowest of levels, this absurd levels, just a stupid ass piece of art that any, mentally deranged 10-year-old could do, that they have to, it's given and trusted in the hands of the most influential artist, David Hawker. It's a £7 million campaign, or part of a £7 million campaign called Let's Do London, pushed forth by that genius Sadiq Khan. Even in the name, Khan, Sadiq Khan, man. Well, you're quantum of conscience. Yeah, conscience means a moral fiber. One's conscious to do the right thing. Sadiq Khan. Just a plain out con job is what it is. And that's what this whole campaign is. But I'm going to try to reverse engineer it, guys, so, we can understand reality better, what it's trying to do at the 100,000 foot level, but try to get back up there from the lowest of the low, this absurd artwork. So basically, guys, what do we know? When something like this is put out, they're always operating on a multifaceted approach. The evil genius in which it does business is impressive for the most part. So let's just go. The first thing, the reality knows, and we'll try to build as to what it wants to get out of this, and then what it wants to get out of all of its presentations that are similar to this, which are in the millions at this point, of how it makes a similar presentation to the masses for similar goals. So just doing this on the fly. I have no idea if I can do this. It might completely sound insane when I'm done, but I'll try to keep it coherent. So let's start with this. Of course, it's all by design. It initially wants and expects a reaction. It didn't expect it. When I say it, I'm talking about the overarching reality itself. What does that mean, Matt? We've talked about it from time to time. It's not the purpose of this video. There's something here that wants a human being put into a certain place or to screw itself over. It works through its minions, its celebrities, its politicians, its people in the public eye. In this case, it's David Hawker. It's Sadiq Khan, excuse me. It works through its minions. In most cases, the minions have no idea, in my opinion, how they're serving it. And the minions can put this stuff out, in other words, serving the reality without even knowing. So I'm going to say what it wants. I'm going to talk about the general overarching reality. We can discuss exactly what that means some other time. But it knows a segment of people are going to get very angry and upset when, as part of a £7 million, which is about 10 million US dollars campaign to Let's Go London, they put out some piece of shit turd that any glue sniffing 7-year-old could do with 2 crayons and a piece of paper. They know people are going to get upset. And then to make it even more inflammatory, you have Sadiq Khan's tweet. "Brilliant work from David Hockney in Piccadilly. The first of a series of major art projects we've commissioned as part of our brand new Let's Do London campaign. Lots more to come. Lots more shit and 7-year-old artwork to come. So brilliant work. It knows it's going to get a reaction from people. So people start tweeting back to the mayor all of this shitty ass art that they gave their first grader to do or did themselves, just making fun of it. Of course, it knows the reaction. The sentient world simulation or whatever they use know the reaction. Oh, we can harvest some loosh by, let me get off this page because keep flashing that message. We can harvest some loosh by getting a whole segment of the population that actually cares that their tax dollars being wasted to go back at Sadiq Khan, the mayor, and say, I'm outraged, this is horrible. Other people will make fun of it. So that's the first level. That's the first level. What it's doing behind the scenes or in the last creepy room is far more sinister. But it's always operating on multiple dimensions. If they can get hundreds of thousands of people angry about this because their tax dollar was wasted, then they'll harvest that loosh and say, thanks for coming. So that's the first level. But what do they want at the second level or the third level? And to me, let me before I tell you what my take is on why something like this is produced and how it fits in to the overarching goal of the reality itself. Let's just take a look at David Hockney here. I never heard of this guy. I don't live in the UK. I'm sure if you're from the UK or London, of course you know who this is. This is a Pablo Picasso figure to me. He even has a similar hat. Just complete puppets used by the system. Is he in on it? Does he know the role that he played to push his crap ass art over 50 or 60 years? Does he? No, I doubt it. I really doubt it. Again, Spike Lee doesn't know how he's used by the system to create more racism. He thinks he's just a brilliant artiste that's just helping, those that have been discriminated against push back on the man. Spike Lee doesn't. He's not in on the back room. And that's the point of the whole reality. There is no anybody screaming at me from their bathtub. There is no back room. See, that's how it works. Do I know? That's my opinion. Okay, it's my opinion. I don't think there is any back room. That's a way for us to understand it. That the dark figures pulled chairs out and got together and planned and plotted. The realities. And if Christian yelling at me, Satan, of course you want to call it Satan, go ahead. It acts like Satan. I can't argue with that. I can't. It's exactly, and its intentions flow through its minions. This guy, I'm sure, just thinks he's some great artist. He's not aware of exactly how he's being used, or I say things definitively, guys, but I don't know definitively. If anybody's crying out in the night, how is he being used? He's not aware, like you say. Well, how is he being used? Just like Pablo, the best example is Pablo Picasso. And see, this leads to where this whole video is going, and might as well just get right into it. The reality is out to destroy everything. Okay? It's out to destroy the foothold on everything good people once knew, or what they could rely on, or the foundation of their lives, or reality or life that once was. It's these chaos lords I'm going to talk about in the next segment, they're out to destroy everything. Pablo Picasso, in the past, however real these people were or whoever they served, it doesn't matter. There were incredible works of art, whether they really came from Da Vinci or whoever, incredible, of course. Whether you like Monet or Manet or mayonnaise, they were in the past, no matter what your tastes were, there were some incredible works of art. And then it started the reality does business like this across the board. It starts to degrade. It starts to devolve. Picasso, to me, and I haven't spent weeks looking into all of this. I don't know a whole lot about art, but he seems like the transition person between the modern art turds of today and great works of antiquity in the past. Pablo Picasso was like the missing link, I guess, or the link from a great era to an era where everything is completely designed to break down into absolute shit, where the great works of today, just like paint thrown against a white canvas managed in the art galleries of James Alefantis, that crap. So this guy is like a similar role. Well, Matt, you don't know how good this guy is. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it says we boys together clinging, 2 popsicles. Oh, that's just genius. Well, he has other work, Matt. Oh, yeah. You know how many artists could do this work? Like every one of them. Everybody that came out of, that got through Juilliard drunk could do this. I mean, come on. Some great art. He was chosen for some reason. Okay, he could be Matt. He's connected bloodlines. Maybe it doesn't. We don't know the ins and outs of it. Doesn't matter whether he was chosen because this painting got $90 million. It's like 2 guys around a pool. It's called or something. We'll look at this in a second. $90 million at Sotheby's. Whether he needed something to do because he's in some bloodline. And he wasn't a good guitar player. They put these the deadbeats of the family out in front of a rock band or something. He gave him a paintbrush, and I don't know. It doesn't, but probably not. He probably was just the system could use him, so he was told how wonderful he is. His paintings got a lot of press. He was taken in to art galleries. That's Spike Lee. He doesn't know what's going on. Oh, he was told do the right thing. Do the right thing. That's a pretty damn good movie. Of course, it's just constant. It creates racial tension. It's designed to create racial tension. But Spike Lee is a very young man with, Mars Blackman with the Michael Jordan campaign. It must be the shoes. It must be the shoes. And he gets a cute little figure, Mars Blackman from She's Gotta Have It. I watched She's Gotta Have It based on those dumbass Michael Jordan commercials. It's got to be the shoes. It ain't that good. She's Gotta Have It. And then he becomes this world-renowned. He was chosen. He was taken under the dragon's wing. He went to the Eyes Wide Shut party. He had his password. He was chosen. He thinks he's just helping beat back the man, and he's so brilliant and wonderful. Although, if you can get past how movies like Do the Right Thing are just designed to cause racial tension, there's some scenes in Do the Right Thing I love. And I'll give credit where credit's due. I can't stand that little Spike Lee. I can't stand him, what he represents and who he thinks he is. How he's Spike, if you're listening to this, and I'm sure you are, without you being aware of it, I'm sure you've actually been used to create more racial tension than probably anybody else in the last 20 or 30 years. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that contribution to humanity, Spike. Thanks. Matt, he knows exactly what he's doing. I don't know. We can debate that some other time. It doesn't really matter. Some might, some aren't. This guy is used to create just the way Picasso is used and different people are. Who's the guy that did that piece of shit Campbell's soup can? Andy Warhol. Come on. I haven't looked at his works intimately. I guarantee if we look at them now, they suck. They probably all suck. He was used. He's a puppet of the system. So the point of all this, guys, is how it uses almost everything and everyone in the same way to ultimately break down the foundation of what people used to rely on, or their foothold, or the 3 legs of the stool. Everything is being devolved. Everything is being made bad. Everything is being destroyed across the board. So, you go back to this. This is, in terms of all the things that are being destroyed, let's just go over and do a quick short list. Of course, this list could go on for 1,000 pages. Star Wars. Of course, the last 3 were made bad on purpose. Okay, on purpose for anybody new here. Don't have time to get into it. It's my favorite. I'm tempted. It's my favorite topic of all time. I'm well aware Disney needs to make money. Well, that's what the official story is. They don't. They don't need to make money. I don't have time to explain that either. Star Wars was made bad on purpose. Then almost all the sci-fi franchises that people, loved as a kid or they could rely on to have something to look forward to. It's a lot more complicated than this, but Terminator franchise, Star Trek, all destroyed, destroyed, destroyed. The Marvel Universe, that was clearly destroyed because they took out half of the characters. It's all destroyed on purpose. We have to talk about later, well, what is the reality's intent on doing this? And that's what we have to discuss on the back end. And I should have probably said reserve comments for that, because that's everything. That's the most important part, because then that tells you about yourself and it tells you how to protect yourself. So, I mean, it breaks down everything into what it presents as the new normal. All right. So let's just go through the list and we'll talk about why it potentially does this. How an economy must work. It must be the forces of supply and demand. But even the normie sees, well, supply and demand don't really seem to work anymore. And weird things are happening. And then even the normie can't quite put their finger on it. Well, why is this C thing we're talking, it's supposedly decimated all these industries, yet nothing in my backyard, the normies would say, has closed down. Pretty much everything miraculously or magically has stayed open. Most people have signs out front saying they need people because they can't get anybody even to work, because people are getting paid to stay home through different types of unemployment. But then we hear, well, how is this thing supposedly destroying the economy? And then, the real statistics about $1 trillion loss in tourism. Well, if you take $1 trillion out of the system, the loss of tourism, and that has to be real. Nobody got in a plane and went to see Stonehenge or whatever. Nobody got in a plane and went to see sail down the Rhine and the Ruhr in the last year or so. It's happening now. But tourism, it has to be real what these articles say. It probably was decimated to the extent of $1 trillion less. Whatever, what did I look at a few weeks back? Hundreds of thousands of trips less. Because nobody could go anywhere. Even in Pennsylvania here, they even said, if you even cross into the Delaware border, from Pennsylvania to Delaware, just drive across the border. To go to a grocery store, they were threatening to pull you over and basically arrest you or quarantine you. So the $1 trillion loss in the economy by itself, in tourism, that should have been an M effect or a ripple effect per what the money supply is and the stock market. It should have created 1929, the Great Depression, all over again. So again, people are confused around us that don't study the stuff that we do and says, well, how is this happening? They don't, how the economy works. They don't understand it. This roles of supply and demand, it's all breaking down. It's meant for their psyche to not understand it and for everything to break down. That's what we're looking at here with this child's drawing coming from one of the most respected artists of the 20th century. Even art is unreliable anymore. Everything is, but we'll get back to this example. Somebody sent me, I forget who it was, thank you for sending it to me, some 25-year-old kid is CEO of this new driverless truck company. One company merged with another company, and he just looks like some kid that just graduated, some kid that just was hanging around the frats of his college, and now he's a CEO of a. It's like the Elon Musk story, but they're moving him up even younger now. Do I think he's a real CEO? No, he's put there. Who knows, I can't predict or explain how everything they do, but it does go along with that general sense of how everything is breaking down. Somebody sees it, and even if they're not consciously aware of it, somebody sees it and says, a 25-year-old kid that just looks like he's still popping zits. He's now the CEO. And of course, that might be not the greatest example, guys, but we could just do this for days. What is considered valuable? They show us art that doesn't exist. There's an artist, remember, we talked about this a week or two ago. When I say we, it's always like, I put it out, I read your comments, it is a we. Sorry, it's not like me and Britney Spears personalities. The artist puts out a sculpture that's not there. There's nothing there. He admits there's nothing there, but he gives the buyer a certificate of authenticity. What is valuable, this system is out to break down somebody's psyche on how they relate to that. There's that digital art that we looked at 6 months ago, where every day the guy produced a digital piece of art of, it's a real digital piece of art. It's a real tree glowing on a hill or something. But then was selling it. And even though you could download it for free, he was selling the limited editions that had some sort of digital blockchain tag on it. So it was a limited edition, even though millions of people could just go download the PDF or whatever it is, the JPEG or the TIFF file. But since he put a certificate of authenticity on it and limited it, created scarcity on something that you can't create scarcity on, a digital file that can be replicated over and over and over again on that Lyman, what's his name, the kid that did the War Games computer, the kid that Matthew Broderick, that communicated with Joshua. He could do it himself, just making phone calls on that old modem, just produce the damn thing over and over and over again. But then they create value because, no, it's blockchain and it's limited edition. And that was his name. I know, Lightman. Yeah, his name was Lightman. His name was, you can't do that, Lightman. Yeah, it was Lightman. Yeah. What was his name? And Eugene was in it he played Eugene also from Greece. And I forget his name in the movie. Like, the other guy was like, Eugene, remember when you told me to tell you when you were being insensitive and obnoxious? Well, you're doing it now. Anyway, so crypto itself, digital art with blockchain, sculptures that don't exist, it's a breakdown of what people assign value to. And consciously, people aren't aware of this. This is an evil genius that plays on the subconscious. So I might as well tie in what I've been staring at for 20 minutes. Even what a sign that shows you what tube stop you're approaching or getting off on as you come into the tube. Even a sign that well, how could that break down? They do it everywhere. They leave no stone unturned. Even a sign that just shows you what stop your tube is coming into, even that breaks down below standards of acceptability. And it probably maybe it starts to turn people insane over time. I don't really think that's the intention. It does reflect on people's subconscious, unconscious. And what I think it does is, without people even being consciously aware, people come to the conclusion that I can rely on nothing. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. We're still looking at this picture, but it's too important to turn off right now. Let me remember. I guess a year ago, even before the big C, right after the helicopter accident, the Kobe, I came out and said, remember how big that story was, how unnaturally large the Kobe story was. It was just ridiculous how you would think George Washington was still alive and he had died, and they made that big of a deal out of it. Just some basketball player. Absolutely so artificial, but nobody around me at least could see it. It's like, don't you see? They're making the big deal they're making over this basketball player's death is like 100 times bigger than what it should be. No, he was an important figure. Oh, really? Okay. It's like George Washington is still alive and died. But I said, when that happened, I said, of course, that was a major monster news story, 100 times, M to the 100 times, or bigger than it ever should be. So do you think there's ever going to be a big news story? Oh God, I almost said globe. Oh my goodness, what a deceptive channel. Do you think there'll ever be a news story in the world or on Earth? You can interpret that however the landmass any way you want. That will not be riddled, just constantly riddled with conspiracy. And I predicted, no, there will never be a major news story that will not be riddled with conspiracy, because, for lack of a better way of describing it, that's how the reality must do business. Gigantic news story has to be riddled with conspiracy. Condominiums in Florida, here it comes. It has to go hand in hand. But most of you agreed. Most of you are like, no, there will never be a big, huge news story that's not riddled with conspiracy. So it's kind of like that we predict kind of how the reality itself has to do business. And this, what we're looking at here, is a similar sense. So if I said to you, here's where I'm going here. It's related to what we just talked about. I said to you, and you didn't know anything about this, and I showed you no pictures. Hey, Sadiq Khan, through the Let's Do London campaign, which is backed by £7 million, there's an artist they got, a famous artist named David Hocker, and he's going to do some tube stop art. And I'm going to just ask you, you Jedis that have been in the conspiracy world, Do you think it'll be impressive, or do you think there'll be like something wrong with it? And every one of you, of course, immediately would be like, no, I don't think it won't be beautiful. It won't be impressive. It won't be something that people will really take pride in as London people that are residents of London taking the tube. You all could have predicted that if I just told you that out of the blue, you'd say, there'll be something wrong with it. It'll be a piece of shit, or it'll be something wrong with it. It'll cause controversy. It'll cause racial division. It'll cause. By the way, I don't know if I thanked Rachel for this story. I'll thank her now. Thank you, Rachel. I'll put something before the video. You all could have predicted. So see, then what you're doing is sensing how the reality itself does business. We couldn't just predict that this whatever artwork is about to be released tomorrow, say, by David Hockney, before we knew what it was. You and I both would have been like, it's going to be something wrong with it. It's going to cause controversy. It's so predictable in how it works. There's no way we could predict that if it wasn't like a symptom of the reality itself. All right, if that makes any sense. So David Hockney, just a complete, tool of the system, just like, almost all the other minions. Some might have a better understanding of how things work. I'm going to go over here. I've talked about, keep the, the cock jokes down to a minimum. I mean, if every time I talk about, it's my favorite sci-fi artist, but I don't just talk about it because I like the, sword and sorcery books. There's so much hidden truth in these Michael Moorcock Elric of Melniboné, it's called. Here, let the jokes start. People be saving their comment for Michael Moorcock is the article, and it's Elric from Melniboné. The point, guys, is, let's keep the cock jokes to a minimum. The point is, this character here and the way this, first of all, if you read all Michael Moorcock's stuff, he's connected to, trust me, to something. He's just a little creepy. It's not just, or somebody might say, well, no, Matt, you shouldn't be talking. Okay, if he's not, then something was channeled through him as a sci-fi writer. One of the famous sci-fi writers that came out of the mid-'70s. Something was channeled. We know artists channel. They're not all getting their directives from the creepy Illuminati window. The rock band is standing, live and live from York, PA. Throwing Copper Eye Alone. They're not all standing in front of the Illuminati window waiting for it to go up. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for what the Illuminati wants me to name our next album. It's in their hands. Throwing Copper? What the hell is that? Oh, I don't. So sometimes maybe they decided on their own, and even some of the lyrics. But then to me, it's like channeled, or as a minion, they're opening themselves up to being used by the greater reality of which the minion or the rock band isn't even aware. I'm sure Vanessa VA would agree with this, because she can get, or she shows us how we can get meaning out of songs where, high level meaning, spiritual meaning from songs where it's almost obvious that the songwriter didn't intend that sort of meaning. 2-3 level meanings in every song, depending on the vibration or the frequency of the consciousness of who's listening to it. She calls it the retrocausality language. So in this series, the big, huge theme is the balance. You have the Chaos Lords, which are like demonic lords of satanic lore. I mean, I think they're called Archdukes of Hell, but there's no Christian theme that runs through it. But he still calls the evil gods of chaos the Archdukes of Hell. Then they're gods of law. It's chaos versus law. It's just a different way of saying, of course, good versus evil. But the theme is constantly the balance. Elric, the eternal champion, who is evil, but he will fight usually for good, because the chaos is starting to pervade and take over the world. So he must fight on the other side to restore balance. The eternal champion always must fight on the side that's losing the balance war, the side where the scale is going up. One side's pushing down too much. It's not equal. He jumps on the other side to try to equal it. Potentially, that's our role to a degree in this. But the reason I talk about this is that whatever is here, working through its minions, is like the Chaos Lords. It's an attempt to break down everything. An attempt to, what is a CEO? They just show you some 25-year-old kid. What is gender? They'll confuse it. What is, great movies don't exist anymore, or great comedies can't be produced anymore. How does an economy work? Break down the boundaries of what the most basic thing around an economy is supply and demand. That's being broken down. Everything's being broken down. Salaries in basketball. What can a salary be for a guy that dribbles a ball or hits a baseball or does something else dumb with a ball? What's the limit of what a salary can be? And anybody normal that's still trying to hold on to their original selves or the old reality or the old ways would be like, the limit, we would have been asked, I don't know, like $30 million for 5 years. Then you got $100 million contracts in football. Then you got $180 million contracts in basketball. And a lot of these basketball players are absolute bums, okay? Absolute bums, like Ben Simmons of the Sixers, who once they start playing defense in the playoffs, he can't even score sometimes 5, 7, 10 points. $180 million, something like that, whatever he gets. I mean, so it just, to me, most people are consciously aware, but the more intelligent parts of them, the subconscious, unconscious, I think is constantly struggling with this. And I think at some point people have two choices, and they're not, unless they're really aware of the evil chaos lords that are plotting against them. They have two choices: to try to do what we're doing, to try to hold on to ourselves, to try to hold on to, or at least if we have to identify with any part of this world, which we should try to cut ties and attachments whenever possible, we'll at least identify with what was. This is why this is the reason why 80s music is so sentimental and so loved, and probably why classic rock came back. People on an unconscious level are they're not even aware of it, but they're trying to hold on to something that was not pure. The evil system, the Chaos Lords have been here a long time, but closer or more pure. I think this is why the nostalgia with everything old and the 80s music and the classic rock, I think this is part of it. And most people that like that, it is better music overall too. It's not just that, of course. I'm well aware that Led Zeppelin's albums are a whole lot better than I don't even know the artists that are out today. I just keep going back to Gucci Gang or something, Lil Pimp. I mean, I would think the Aerosmith album that introduced Dream On or whatever is probably superior to Little Pimp and Gucci Gang and stuff. So it was better in the past, but it's also, I think, an attempt to hold on to the past with the Chaos Lords trying to destroy and break down everything. So we could do a whole video, just go over here to the images and just do like we've done a million times, but you can't do this enough. Star Wars mismanaged. That's what they like to believe. That's what they like to believe. Oh, this is the Mike sent me this one, the recent Atlantic magazine, basically saying how Star Wars was mismanaged by Disney. And when the Atlantic comes out and says that, oh boy, now the mainstream is getting on Disney, when we know there's no mismanagement. The last three, and probably the middle three as a transition, were made bad on purpose. On purpose. Why? If anybody, I mean, because for everything I'm saying in this presentation, it's not Star Wars. Everything is being made bad on purpose. Everything is being eroded at the core. The reason for this, even if we don't fully understand it, it's to do something to a human being. So I didn't finish my thought. People that have a clue, like you and me, which we try to hold on to the past. Many people around us are nostalgic above the past, but I was going to say you have two choices. or I put this forth a few minutes ago. You can desperately try to hold on to the past if you're in the normie camp, or you could just say, basically on an unconscious level, say F it, and just kind of merge with it. And that's the new type of human being they want going forward, in my opinion. Someone that will, because so many things have eroded and have broken down that make no sense. Just like all the examples that, that I've been listing here, that people eventually just say F it and will just go along with anything the reality presents. Not that they ever even thought critically in the first place or pushed back, but it breaks it will break everybody down where they will basically go along with anything, no matter how absurd. And if somebody's screaming out at me, I can hear you. We're there now. We're basically there now. I'm still in the camp of, somebody emailed me about a year ago and said, the reality is going to move forward. This is to me, we live in a gigantic Mandela effect where it is continuously fluid and people reset to the new normal. New normal is not about C, it's about everything. What an economy should be, that's a new normal. What a great movie franchise should be, that's a new normal. It wants to reset to a new normal on everything. And I believe it molds people's minds so they eventually merge with it, or just put down all their defenses, drop all their guards, put up more veils, and just go along with it. I think it's more than that. The download that I talk about is more like we continuously live in a giant Mandela effect. A Mandela affected person is rare. So many people will be like, hey, do you remember this? And most people will say, no, I remember exactly as the reality reflects today. To me, that's because when the reality, a fluid reality kind of, went in a certain place, or the tide came and then the tide came out, the person, like a download, went out with it. They merged with it. They're now 2 feet on the new reality. We're somehow, we talked about standing on the shore as the ship of fools. What was the ship of fools on the river of insanity is what it was, sails away. We're standing on the shore, saying goodbye to the love boat. It's not just that they're choosing to go along with all this insanity. The insanity is the new normal of this reality, and people are they're stepping onto the ship. They are in the new reality where at least an aspect of us is somewhere else. So that's why it continuously looks more and more insane to us. I've been over that, standing on the shore type thing. But all of it, you can't. Its patience is inhuman, meaning it's beyond what. It's not just people plotting in back rooms, but it's no stone unturned. We talked about its patience being just ridiculous in terms of how long it can wait. But this actually could explain why. Remember, we always struggle with, why did these minions put something in place that they themselves would never see in their lifetime? Because the reality itself doesn't have a lifetime. This is starting to explain it. Perhaps if it works through minions, it will tell a minion without the minion being aware of it. King, Jaffer or whatever, the guy that started to build the Cologne Cathedral in 15 whatever, and let's just say it can be built. We're not going to do a sidebar every time. Let's just say it can be built with ropes and ladders and chisels. We're not going there. We're not going impossible architecture detour in this presentation. And it wasn't King Jaffer. He's Zamunda. I know it wasn't him that started Cologne Cathedral, but whatever. So he got this great idea to start building the Cologne Cathedral, and it's not going to be done in his lifetime or even in the lifetime of Akeem. Akeem's never going to see the damn thing done. But if it's a minion who's serving the system will use the minions without even them being aware of how they're being used. This could explain why this stuff is put in motion when whoever the minion putting it in motion won't even see it in their own lifetime. And it's not just old cathedrals that took 400 years to build. I know if they could even be built. Things like not David Rockefeller saw what Sade sang about, that thing that happened in the 7-Eleven job application submission in 2001. Sade up there singing "Cherish the Day." Cherish the day. Oh yeah, they would. She was singing for her minions. They're going to cherish the day. But it was David Rockefeller saw it. He was like 190 years old. What was the other guy? I guess Nelson. He didn't see it. Somebody crying out from their bathtub. I can hear you. He did see it. He came into another body somewhere. He dropped in to see it. Got an Italian hoagie a couple blocks up, and then checked out. But that's possible. Anything's possible with these creeps. But yeah, maybe that's why they put stuff in motion that goes beyond their lifetime, because it's simply, as you get closer and closer to minion level, you're what seems to end up happening. You're doing more and more of the bidding of what the overarching reality wants, right? I mean, we're trying to move, if that's a sliding scale, we're trying to move away from that. And I might make a mistake in certain video presentations, when certain videos might be promoted by YouTube, but I don't try to make the mistakes. You and me are trying to move away farthest from the minion level. So we are not doing what the reality wants most of the time. We're not perfect. We're down the other side of this scale. That's why we're immune to certain things or certain presentations. And by the way, guys, the good news, if you're immune now to this, I think I'm not saying let your armor down or anything. We'll always keep it zipped up. Zip me up. They have to zip me up in the back for their armor. We're never going to drop it, but we're never going to be fooled. There's this period where, it got 99% of the population. I still think there are people that are on the verge that can be woken up. I think it's futile. Resistance is futile. It's the system itself talking through the Borg. It is a waste of time, but there'll be some people. But it's not, you're never going to be, if you've gone this far, you're never going to be fooled. I'm not saying take the armor off and frolic around on the nude beach or anything. Keep the armor up, the spiritual armor, whatever you want to call it. But I wouldn't, I don't think, I just think they'll never get us. We just, once you're in this position, there's no going back. Unless the rare person like Cypher that wants to desperately get back in the Matrix. If you announce that you desperately want to get back in the Matrix, I'm sure the Matrix will probably accommodate you. Some corporate cubicle job will pop up and you'll get back into that rat race, or I don't know. So it'll, if you really want back in, we never know. How did Cypher make his intentions known to the agents? But if you went back in the Matrix, the rare person in the truth community, there's probably Matrix agents that'll pop up and be more than willing to accommodate. But that's not going to be the case with almost everybody listening to this. We're kind of in the situation we're in now, and we're going to play this out for the rest of this incarnation. And as it becomes more, the reality breaks down and becomes more and more of a joke. We're not gonna get stressed out of it. We're just gonna laugh at it more and more, as it deserves to be laughed at. So let's see, guys, if that's everything. That was David Hockney. This is David Elric. Star Wars Mismanaged. Yeah, my favorite example as to everything has to be destroyed by these Chaos Lords for what it wants to do and ultimately wants to accomplish in turning a human being. There is one more thing I want to say. Turning a human being into. Human beings here generally have to doom and damn themselves. There's a reason. Those old stories that the devil comes down to do a deal, and there's no story of the devil all powerful. He grabs the hand and puts the pen in the hand and then holds the wrist as the person writes, and the devil's holding the back of the hand and forcing the person to sign. There's never a forcing of the person to sign in the old legend and lore, and there's a reason for that. It applies Christian or not. These lessons are across the board. Human beings here have to kind of doom and kind of flush themselves. And it goes into that. We'll go into that same. I don't want to slip into that same debate with people that email me that there's no consequence at all to making the wrong choices. People will email me and say you're too powerful of a spiritual essence, and a part of you that's not here would never let itself get flushed, and there's no consequences to anything. And so there'd be, I see it's just so counter to what I observe. Why does it work so hard if there's no consequences? The only reason anybody could explain as to why it works so hard to get people to do certain things is just loosh then. Oh, it's just energy harvesting. It needs energy, Matt, to survive. It puts people into certain states of worry and anger, and that's all. It's just about feeding itself. I don't see it that way. I think these stories, when stories are carried through time, whether you're a Christian, you really believe it's Satan or whatever you believe, these exist for a reason, having to sign in blood with the contract that the devil presents you. That I think these legends exist for a reason. It's that horrible movie with Nicolas Cage. Is it Hell Rider? He gets on the motorcycle and he turns into a skull, a flaming skull or whatever. Same thing with it. This theme repeats over and over and over again. Let's see if we can pull that up. These thumbnails I present are so. What I can do with the new Mac is it must give you the chills how I'm making these presentations now on the new Mac. I couldn't do this on the old Mac because the pages would get frozen. I couldn't even go around the internet. So let's go Nick Cage Hell Rider. Is that it? Let's see. I mean, you want to talk about a bad movie. I mean, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But the same thing. Devil shows up, sign on the dotted line, and he has to willingly do the deal. Bob Dylan talking to Ed Bradley. It's just, you have to, it's just the way these concepts, when they constantly repeat, I think there's a reason for that. So there's no consequence to anything anybody could do here. Somebody listening to this could just run to Hollywood and just scour the Hollywood Hills for the creepy piano player from Under the Silver Lake and just scream out in the middle of Chinatown, I want Under the Dragon's Wing. I'll do anything to get it. I'm not saying this. I'm saying if somebody did this, they would say, I'll do anything to get in Under the Dragon's Wing. Please, whoever Bob Dylan dealt with, come see me. So you just beg and beg to get under the dragon's wing, and then somebody accommodates you, but there's not going to be any spiritual repercussion for that. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to play it conservative. What is there to lose? I don't know, control of your spiritual self or an aspect of you, or even if you are somewhere else, a big part of your spiritual nature is somewhere else, like higher self, Horcruxing a bit of yourself into this place, the way Voldemort put a piece of his soul into a material thing like a gem. The stakes are too high. Why take the risk? Stakes are too damn high. Why do they work so hard? Trying to get people to, for there's no other way to explain it, give pieces of themselves away. Why do they work so hard? I don't know, guys. It's just, but I'm gonna live my life a certain way no matter what, and that's the right way. So it's not like I'm gonna live a certain way because I'm afraid of a certain outcome. Once you have a certain understanding, then you live a certain way based on finally understanding the true path of a real human being, or the concept that was presented in Dances with Wolves. And that's the right path no matter what, So it doesn't really matter in the end. And what is that? That's Lincoln Park, Chester, right? I mean, there's meaning in everything once you can sniff it out, read the Matrix Code. That first Lincoln Park album, it was definitely the creepy piano player from Under the Silver Lake involved, with Lincoln Park. Every single song is good. I tried so hard and got so far. In the end, it doesn't really matter, is it? Let's just look what I can do on the Mac. This is so impressive. Lincoln, Linco, Park. what is it called? Hybrid theory is the name of it. I'm sure that just those kids came up with that. You know, in the end, I tried so hard and got so far. In the end, it doesn't even matter. What's my interpretation of that? Here's Chester. Poor Chester. What happened? Did he go off to the island, or did he really do it? It doesn't matter. I got so far in this life, in this material plane of absurdity. In the end, it doesn't even matter. Because it doesn't matter. The only thing you get to keep is what you give away. So, again, we have over and over again these kids writing these songs with esoteric meaning or dual meaning or triple layer spiritual meaning or a truth drop or invoking alchemical symbolism or throwing copper or there's just these kids are not capable of this. I'm going to do a video on this as soon as I can. I mean, there's a few exceptions we talked about in the past, like, all the weirds. Jimmy Page could have been connected to somebody that had a nice chair in the creepy back room, somebody like that goes off to buy Crowley's estate. I mean, there are connections, or Jimmy Page could have had bloodline connections, but these are just performers that, that they're taken under the dragon's wing, and they're not, my favorite example, Sarah McLachlan, building a mystery, as above, so below. What's it called? Surfacing. With this new Mac, I can just go one topic to the next and do a 24-hour Ted Cruz filibuster without the green eggs and ham with the Texas catheter. McLaughlin, Surfacing. The Surfacing album, just riddled with, she had no clue at 29 what she was writing here. She probably still doesn't understand it. Sade probably doesn't understand what she did on top of that building. But what's the as above, so below song? Will we burn in heaven like we do down here? That didn't sound like Sarah McLachlan, I know it. Will we burn in heaven as like we do down here? Yeah, sure. Just sitting around, with a few college friends that, like girls from the craft. They just have this complete, alchemical and occult understanding to work these types of themes into the music. No way. And now people have sent me so much stuff. I've got to do a video about this. It's just endless. It is just, is it Modest Mouse? Who sent me this? Modest Mouse. I apologize. I forget. The lyrics, you won't believe it. It's amazing. Just, if I have the band right, I have to look into who sent this to me. I apologize, but it's incredible. One band after another, 20-something after 20-something, they all just have it. They've read every single esoteric work. They can speak to the highest levels of the esoteric nature of reality. I mean, it's just, none of them are just what we thought. They're not just kids out there trying to score girls and smoke drugs and drink alcohol. They're just, sure they are. That's what they are. There are a few exceptions. They're given what to play. They're given the lyrics. Under the Silver Lake, let me just end with Under the Creepy Piano Player. Under the Silver Lake, piano player. Here he is. This movie is really disturbing on a lot of. It's not worth seeing. I've talked about it. It does give you like a weird vibe as to what LA's like. It will not appeal to 9 people out of 10. This movie, I do not recommend it. It is weird in certain areas, but I lived in LA for 3 years. There's no way to describe kind of the feel of it. There's very few movies that you get the feel of it. You get even an old movie like Jack Nicholson, Chinatown. It's supposed to take place like in the 40s or 50s. You get a feel kind of what it was like. And I wasn't alive then, This movie gives you a feel of what LA's like, although he walks all over the city. Nobody walks in LA. You can't. But he comes across this guy who's up in the hills by himself, a demonic figure. And I don't remember much of it. This kid who played Spider-Man, he's just struggling, understanding himself and his place in the world. And, he's like, hey, kid, you ever hear this one? He plays Teen Spirit on the piano. Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Dun, 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 dun. And he plays on the piano. He's like, you ever hear that one? Yeah, of course. Everybody, I wrote it. He's like, I wrote everything here for everybody. I'm sure you can get it on YouTube. The creepy piano player scene is great. And it's one of the biggest truth drops of all time. Not that there's some creepy guy up in the Hollywood Hills with a bathrobe on, and there's a system, that Mike Tsejikwe talks about, the Tavistock system that was responsible for the Beatles. And, the same old thing, the people around us just make constant excuses. My stepfather, huge Beatles fan, he plays guitar, he knows music, he can write music. There's always an excuse, a ready-made excuse built into every single story. I say, George Martin, he was the genius behind the Beatles. Let me see if I can find a picture of him. George Martin, Beatles. I think his name was George Martin. There's always a ready-made, this guy, there's always a ready-made excuse built in, where if I show my stepfather enough things showing that there's no way the Beatles produced all this on their own, George or John Lennon admitted several times he can't, I think, even read music. He can't write music, like officially, like the treble clef, that sort. He doesn't do that. I mean, these guys admit, according to Mike, the Paul McCartney Billy figure is much. He is really. He's more of like a real Juilliard trained musician, but the others couldn't read or write music. So even if you tell my stepfather, I'm just using him as an example of the people around us, over and over again, these things that the Beatles couldn't have produced this music. The ready-made excuse that the reality's built in is, well, they'll eventually have to come forth and say, yeah, okay, I admit this guy George Martin was probably the real genius working with Paul McCartney, and then everything's settled. Then there's no anybody. If you would go farther than this, the creepy piano player from Under the Silver Lake, a whole Tavistock Institute trying to influence an entire culture, C-U-L-T, cult, then you're going crazy because the ready-made excuse is already built in. It was George Martin, but that was it. Once you put three geniuses together, I mean, look at the Eagles. It had Don Henley and Glenn Frey, and they both were very, very musically talented. The Eagles, you get a sense. Some creepy influences, but they produced most of it on their own. Like Jimmy Page did most of the stuff on his own without the need for the creepy piano player. When you come across these, the Sarah McLachlan type or, a lot of these one-hit wonders, I mean, there's just no way they did it on their own. Player, Baby, Come Back. Video. Let's just say the video. Let's see if there's give me a break. Guys, I got to do this. I can't play it. Baby, come back. You would make it all to. I was wrong, and what is it? I was wrong, and I cannot live without you. Baby, come back. You know it. All right, stop it, Matt. Okay. So the video. I mean, these guys didn't write that song, but I'm not saying just Player, all of them. None of them did, in my opinion. This guy goes on to be the leading man in The Bold and the Beautiful for 20 years. I watched it for a year, like right when I was in high school or something. You're trying to learn about life we didn't have the cable channels and stuff in 88 when I was in high school. And this guy went on to be a soap star. And come on, he's the bassist in this video. He probably can't even play the damn thing. And even the way the song, it's so genius how it's put forth. There's no way these kids came up with this. And guys, I could put in any band here. There's some exceptions with some real talent. But for the most part. No way. No way. It's this guy. Let's see if we can get back to him. It's this guy. It's this guy. What a scene. Under the creepy piano player. Look it up on YouTube. It is really, really great. And this kid's like freaking out. You wrote everything for everybody? And but I don't recommend the movie. Just to if you're not really dying to get what the vibe of LA is all about, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I watched it, so you don't have to. Thanks, guys. Free Voice sometime this weekend. See ya.